Hello and welcome to our webinar, Changing the Narrative for Marketing Later Life Homes. So why do we need to change the narrative? There are 11 million people aged 65 plus in England and Wales. That's nearly 20% of the population, and between them, they own 5.5 million homes. Yet, an interesting statistic is that less than 1% of them live in housing with care provisions, including integrated retirement communities, which are known as IRCs. The equivalent figure in the USA, New Zealand and Australia is actually closer to 10%. That's 10 times more. And what's more, of the people who have moved in the last 5 years, only 12% have moved to what they would consider to be retirement housing. A recent survey by Live In Care Hub found that nearly 3/4 of the people want to stay in their own homes as they get older. And over 60% would still prefer this, even if they needed some significant care. Home is, of course, where we feel the most comfortable, surrounded by the people, pets, and belongings that mean the most to us. And yet, there are stages as we age, and I think some of us will recognise these, that when making the decision to downsize and move should be a logical step. So, is it just a British thing? Why are we so reluctant to move? Today, hopefully, we'll find some of the answers. We're talking to 3 experts. We'll be looking at the behavioural psychology before downsizing. We'll be looking at how integrated retirement communities can market themselves. And we'll be talking about what great design in these communities looks like. First up today is Susan Gregory. She's the founder of estate agency Turner's Oak, and she has many years of experience in helping families navigate moving home in later life. Susan's going to talk to us about the psychology and emotions of moving and downsizing. Over to you, Susan.
Hi, so thanks, Debbie. So I'm Susan and I'm the founder of Turner's Oak. We are the only estate agency and advisory service dedicated to supporting older homeowners and their families navigate what is a very emotional, as well as practical and logistical, unique move in terms of moving in later life. I thought I'd start, as this is the beginning of the presentation, with some overall statistics that will hopefully frame some of the conversation going forward about older homeowners. So this is information from the Department of Levelling Up in 2021. And just in case you weren't aware, 35% of all homes are owned by somebody over the age of 65. But that is also estimated to rise by 47% by 2043. So older homeowners are the largest and the fastest growing demographic of home ownership in the UK. But the Department of Levelling Up also found some other statistics within this, which to some degree are a little bit disturbing. 15% of older homeowners are classed as living in non-decent homes. 66% of those are inefficient homes in terms of their energy rating. 47% live alone, and 67% under-occupy their homes. But the largest statistic, or most interesting one for me, coming from the estate agency background, is that 41% of people who are older homeowners have lived in their home for over 30 years. So these are homes that they purchased for a previous stage of their life, and very much maybe not suitable, as we can see from those other statistics, for the current and future stage of their life. Therefore, it would make sense for people to be moving, but we know that they're not. I carried out some further research and actually came across some of the statistics here from Sherpa. Sherpa is an American company now, Align, who have a huge amount of data about moving in later life. And actually what we know is that 90% of older homeowners are in this stuck stage of thinking and planning. So they're kind of maybe thinking about moving, but don't know if they should. They don't know where to move to. They don't know how to move, all of those things. Only 5% of homeowners are actually, or older homeowners, are actually in the I'm ready to move stage. And when we look at this statistically, a lot of those are either your young older movers who are making lifestyle choices, so 60, 65, proactively wanting to make a change in their life, or they are the crisis movers. So crisis has happened, the fall has happened, something like that, and now they need to move. And I was really interested in the 90% that are stuck. Hence we evolved some of our business into an advisory service to help people unstick themselves. When people are thinking about moving later life, there's lots of logical considerations. There's future planning, there's financial considerations, whether that's the finances of the current home, whether that's the cost of moving, and we've all heard about downsizing and stamp duty exemptions that might be possible in the future but didn't come in the last budget. There's logical decisions around the practicality of moving. And then there's things such as their own mobility and health and where family might be. And these are all logical things that might instigate a move, but those aren't the main reasons. The main thing that actually I've come across is the emotional aspect of moving in later life. And this does become a big blocker for movers. And so I was looking at what actually is going on when we are trying to encourage someone to move in later life. And through conversations with clients, a lot of what they're actually seeing, feeling when they're being encouraged to move is they're actually being asked to move from somewhere where they feel safe, whether they are safe or not. They're being asked to lose their independence, whether that's true or not. They're being asked to downgrade their life, give up control, potentially lose the community that they've known for many years, except they are becoming reliant on other people. And through the lens of that older person, this is really emotionally challenging. They're potentially also being asked to let go of a lost loved one who they might have lived with in their current home with for many, many years. But they're also being asked to accept that their old way of life and living is coming to an end. That's massive. You're asking them to close what has been the longest and most defining chapter of their life. 30 years, 40 years in a home, raising children, all of those things are defined in that property. Moving then into the unknown and losing their identity. And who are they if they aren't that person who's always cooked the Christmas dinner, who's always been the head of the family? So you're asking them to become somebody new. And that is a huge emotional journey that they need to go on. And I was looking at, are there any parallels for that kind of change? And actually, there's lots of parallels with grief. So Kubler-Ross, you might have heard of, and the Kubler-Ross grief cycle, which is also known as the change curve. And actually, when you're asking somebody to close one chapter, move into another one, potentially lose the identity of who they were before and become somebody new, there's grief going on there. And hence we get things like avoidance, shock, fear, frustration, overwhelm, hostility. All of these emotions are actually very, very understandable when you look at what somebody is doing when they are moving from a home they've lived in for 30 and 40 years. And it's only once they've gone through those processes with information and support can they start to move towards acceptance. And it's only when they move towards acceptance are they actually in a position to make informed decisions, to be interested in the wonderful opportunity of the future life that you're asking them to move towards. One of my clients said to me, transition is not about moving from one place to another. It's about learning to let go and to accept that things are never going to be the way they were before. And I think that's really true. And we could really do with paying some attention to that. And also the knot there is a really good analogy for an emotional knot that people will feel when they're moving in later life and they're resistant. And if you try to use logic to persuade somebody to move, actually that knot will likely get tighter. What the objective for me is to help people loosen that knot. And so there's a small part here on actually what are the emotions going on and what are the enablers and blockers for moving. And it's moving a push away from the current home. And that's actually quite a small part most of the time, unless crisis happens. So I'm not feeling hugely like I want to move away from this current home. But when we're also looking at things like the future home and the pull towards and integrated retirement communities and those offerings, we really need to be making sure that that pull towards is in line with what older homeowners are looking for. And the Older People's Housing Task Force have just released their report in November 2024, stating that actually from their research, older homeowners want independence, safety, control, community and belonging. So we need to be making sure that we're actually pulling people towards integrated retirement communities, future options based on what they want. And I think we could do a really much better job in focusing on those. And then when we look at what blocks people, anxiety is massive. And the anxiety about that future option is massive. So, again, through the lens of integrated retirement communities, how can we reduce that anxiety? How can we be more transparent with the things that people are concerned about, such as fee structures, etc.? And then being aware of the inertia that pulls people back towards the current home. We all know that the current home is the biggest competition. And so having an awareness of that and actually allowing people to go through that process of moving away will help you to then be able to pull them towards your offering. So here are just some final things to consider if you are trying to help people to navigate the emotional part of moving in later life, as well as the logistical and the practical. Be aware of where your clients are in their journey, and be aware of how you're helping them navigate the emotional parts of moving, as well as the logistical parts. How are you helping them to transition? How are you demonstrating that you offer independence, autonomy, control, safety, community, and belonging? And ask yourself, are you loosening or tightening that emotional knot in how you're presenting yourselves in the offerings and the conversations that you're having? A couple of other things to just think about. Often the objection is not the objection. So it's a surface objection. And by having really good conversations with people, building trust, demonstrating that you've listened to them, you've heard them, you've understood them, you can actually get to the nub of what their concerns and likely their fears are. And finally, and I think Ali will touch on this, don't attempt to sell the dream to someone who isn't ready to buy it.
Well, thank you, Susan, for setting the scene so brilliantly. What's clear is that the biggest competitor to moving house is actually not moving at all. And from a marketing perspective, don't try and sell the dream to someone who is not ready to buy. That could be a very expensive and ineffective campaign. Which is, of course, the perfect segue to our next speaker, Ali Powell, CEO of Commercial Acceleration. I love the name of that company. She's got 30 years of experience in increasing sales velocity in the sector. And Ali is going to give us some pragmatic strategies and communication tools just for marketers.
So hello, everyone. My name is Ali Powell. I am the CEO of a company called Commercial Acceleration that I founded, and we are the only sales and marketing consultancy dedicated to the retirement living and care sector. So I think what Susan covered there was brilliant. Really great transition to what I'm going to talk about, because in sales and marketing, the first step is always understanding your customers and that psychology piece. I'm absolutely with Susan there, and I really love all the data that she shared and the insights, because that's absolutely spot on. And understanding that is the key to unlocking more sales, more occupancy. That's what we all want. So I'm a very abstract analogy person, and I find what is a very good summary of this journey that the customers are going through is really reflected in two pictures I'm going to share with you. So we call it this change journey, or what Susan was saying, from going from the current state of where they live now on the left-hand side over to the right-hand side, which is our wonderful, amazing retirement living communities. So this emotional anxiety, this concern about why would I want to go there? I wish I could stay at home. Unfortunately, what we're selling is not something people want. And in England, we are behind many of the other mature markets in terms of the population penetration, and the supply out there is hugely underlacking, as the older people's task force report has said. So we really absolutely want to get more people moved in here. And if I just bring to life this change journey, that we therefore in sales and marketing have a responsibility to make this as smooth and seamless and, you know, as great as possible for the future residents and their family. We can demonstrate this by a rickety old bridge. So you can see it there. It looks very unwelcoming, and the customer is looking at it with trepidation, thinking, I don't want to go over there. Like, that's really scary. That's really charged with emotion, and I'm really reluctant to go. And what my job is specializing in is helping people through sales and marketing, through understanding what these barriers are and these concerns, is to being able to portray that in a great way so that they are much more likely and inclined to want to do that. This is represented here through what's a much more attractive bridge. So here, through brilliant marketing and sales, you can see the customers transitioning over the bridge, which is now a lovely, sturdy, steady bridge there. And they are walking with much more confidence and ease in their stride because they have trust in us, and they feel confident and happy to be moving over. And that's what we are really trying to do here, is untangle this concern and emotion and guide them to the right decision for them, which hopefully for many of them is moving into our new properties. So how do we do this from a sales and marketing point of view? We absolutely need a very customer-centric approach to sales and marketing. It is all about demonstrating this empathy of all these factors, these complicated emotional barriers that is going on for the customers, and building trust. We need solutions that are focused on a collaborative approach, and we need to instill confidence and ease these fears and make them feel, when I say them, I'll call them the prospect, it means the potential resident, that they are in as much autonomy and control as them. It's a change journey for them. It's a life change experience. So I wanted to bring to life now some of the key ways that we do this. And I'm going to reference some best in class examples because as a consultant, I'm floating around many operators all the time, helping them to build occupancy. So I'm delighted when I see good examples in place and help to do that. So this slide represents a collage of trust building actions that we can take from a sales and marketing perspective to help our prospects feel much more confident and at ease with their decision. So I'm going to go through some of these and bring these to life. If I can start with the top right one there, the customer testimonial, you can see a lady sitting there in her armchair. Customers currently living in existing retirement villages are the best advocates and the most trusted source for customers to hear from them about really what is it like in a day-to-day way. And there are now many customer testimonial videos out there where you hear from the residents themselves and talking about how joyful the activities are and how wonderful the staff is. So that is an excellent way to build trust. And you can build on that even more when you are doing tours and show rounds, is getting your prospects to talk to the customers. It's a very highly effective conversion channel. If I then sort of go around clockwise, we then have blogs. So there's many people have a thirst for knowledge here to ease their anxiety, whether it's the customer themselves or their families. And we know what these key topics are that people are looking from to educate themselves. We know that customers usually want to spend a lot of time on our websites. 70 or 80% of the decision can be made there. So this is a great place to showcase blogs about the questions that people have. The questions form, in marketing terms, we would call this the keywords that you would then respond to. So it helps you get a great ranking from a search engine optimization point of view, ranking on Google. So some blogs might be written about the joy of right sizing or downsizing. Some might be about how do I ease myself moving in, what support is on offer. So other themes might be about the fee structure. So that's blogs are a great guide. Then you might support societal issue campaigns. One of the biggest things in the retirement living world that we are solving, and it's the S from an ESG perspective, is loneliness. And there's some really shocking statistics out there, unfortunately, about the amount of people that are lonely. So this is just one of the examples of campaigns that many retirement villages support, because they're showing that they totally relate and empathize with compassion to this topic. And also they're just a naturally great solution. You know, it's all about quality of life and community at retirement villages. So that takes me to the bottom left here on sponsoring sports associations. So getting relationships with the local communities, whether those are sports, or we'll talk in a minute about other great places to form community relationships. Sports can be one area, whether it's golf or playing balls. You're thinking, where are our target customers hanging out at the moment? And then thinking, well, how could I sponsor that to put my voice out there, to create presence? So I mentioned golf, I mentioned I think I mentioned bowling, there's bridge. It's, you know, where are your target customers hanging out, and how do I build a relationship with that organization? And then two others here, we've got charity events, which is great ways of meeting other target customers, and community networking. So community networking is a really key lead generation source, and it's often one that is overlooked, unfortunately. So I want to just articulate what I mean with this, just as hopefully a quick win that some others listening could activate. So what this means is looking at where are the um, local businesses and associations, organization, healthcare professionals around me that I could form a relationship with, so they would hopefully refer me. So from a healthcare point of view, it might be local osteopaths, or places where you get your hip joints sorted out. Making a list of those doctors and GPs, and making relationships with them so they would refer you. We've talked about sports already. Other categories might be business relationships, like Chamber of Commerce. Um, it might be the University of the Third Age. I would encourage every place to have about 50 different relationships that are just continually trying to build on those, and build referrals, because as well as customer testimonials, that's one of the highest converting channels, because people really trust that. So some other ways to build trust and educate our customers is around stories. I mean, we know stories are a brilliant way in sales and marketing to captivate people's attention. And there are more videos coming out all the time now, you'll see, about the staff members, the team, sharing what joy they bring to residents every day. And it's very reassuring for families to see who is going to be looking after my loved ones. So I'm delighted that there's more of these videos coming on, where you can meet the managers, meet the team, and I hope we will see more of that. Then coming down to the reviews, we all know that we're really influenced by word of mouth and what people think of us. And there's various review sites out there. Google would be an obvious one to mention, where you really want to be thinking, how do I make sure that I've got as near as I can to 5-star or 9.8s, and encouraging your advocates to post on there, because it really does help you with rankings, as well as an excellent marketing source. The other area here is about free guides. This is very similar to blogs, but they're just more lengthy collateral, where you can provide all sorts of really great information to educate people and answer their questions. So that could be about, you know, how do you make a smooth transition to retirement village? It might be about financial areas, all sorts of topics. And it's a lovely way to provide useful information to people, as well as I would have to add, just from being a marketing guru perspective, is to also capture leads, that critical contact information that then allows you to keep in touch with them. And then the final one on this slide is about the resident stories, which very much aligns with what I was saying about the staff stories. There's nothing better than hearing residents bring to life what they are going through, and then people can empathise and relate to it.
Thanks so much, Ali. That was a fascinating insight in how to market the change journey and, critically, how to build trust. Our last speaker today is Jen Bernard, founder and managing director of Bernard Interiors, the UK's market leader in care and later living design and build. Now, when the decision is made, finally, to move into an integrated retirement community, Jen's business is to ensure that the product design is right for the market, combining aesthetics with functionality. Well, over to you, Jen, to tell us all about the thought and detail that goes into making a home from home.
Hello, I'm Jen Bernard, founder and design director of Bernard Interiors. With over 16 years experience in the sector, we've had the privilege of shaping spaces that elevate the care and well-being of residents in luxury care homes and integrated retirement communities. Through our commitment to innovative design and exceptional quality, our team has grown to become the UK's market leader in this specialist field. Today, I'm excited to share some of our insights and strategies that have guided our journey and contributed to our success in transforming the later living sector. IRCs offer a unique opportunity to design spaces that not only meet the physical and health needs of older adults, but also foster a sense of belonging, independence, and community. Creating a space that people actively choose to move to rather than one that they are pushed towards after a life-changing event requires thoughtful attention to several key design principles. These principles should aim to elevate both the emotional and physical well-being of our future residents. Here are core principles we consider when designing interiors for an IRC that can truly become a home of choice. Many people envision retirement as a time to enjoy a richer social life, and the interior design of an IRC should support both private retreat spaces and opportunities for social engagements, smaller hubs with varying seating arrangements, in conjunction with broader spaces with bars and cafe tables, that kind of thing. Warm, inviting spaces where residents can gather for shared activities, whether it's cooking, art, or simply enjoying a coffee together or a drink at the bar. And this really does help a sense of belonging. Spaces should be adaptable and flexible as residents need change over time to facilitate a range of activities and keep them active and young in themselves. For example, this library here at Audley Scarcroft in Yorkshire can be easily adapted. It can either be used for quiet space to read in varying corners with task lighting, or for a game of bridge and coffee mornings in groups. As people age, their physical abilities may change, but their desire for autonomy does not. By offering spaces that can be easily adapted, such as living areas, the community can appeal to a wider range of individuals who may be planning ahead, but still want choice in how they live in a space. Task lighting is key, along with open plan layouts with a variety of furniture to provide choice of creating intimate spaces or the opportunity for larger social gatherings with family and friends and people from the wider community, like the bar and bistro at Audley Scarcroft. This also assists with how the operator wants to manage the IRC. We design interiors that appeal to a sense of style and comfort. Therefore, it is crucial to understand the demographic. How have the people lived and worked who we're designing for? Strong community and locality links are a thread throughout our designs, and our team give careful consideration to this. Through research and attention to detail, we create familiarity and points of intrigue and discussion. Sunningdale Park in Ascot is a great example of this, a listed building in Ascot, which historically renowned for hosting parties for the royals following a day at the races. High quality materials and finishes that exude warmth and luxury combined with age appropriate furniture, for example, ergonomics, seating, soft textures, firm foam for little bottoms, and task lighting. Here at Sunningdale, we made very subtle nods to the locality and surrounding area of Ascot with use of striped back chairs referencing jockey's silks. In this image of Sunningdale, you can see the appliqued bar stools with a horse peeking through the door, which again gives that very subtle nod to the area. We created a horseshoe style bar here in this big open plan space, again referencing the locality and creating an amazing hub and central communal space. Residents in integrated retirement communities should feel as though they are living in a space that is stylish and comfortable as any other luxury home. When we design with empathy and a deep understanding of the residents' needs and desires. So we create a truly tailored, meaningful interior. Interior design should elevate their living experience, creating an environment that fosters dignity, pride, and enjoyment. It should be aligned to what they are accustomed to, and if anything, be aspirational to instigate a move and bring out joy and in their new phase of life. Promoting wellness through design features that encourages physical activity and mental relaxation is key. On-site wellness centres with fitness equipment, swimming pools and yoga studios, along with designated walking paths and outdoor spaces should be fully considered. Many people today are looking for environments that not only provide a safe living space, but also promote an active and healthy lifestyle. Here, this shows a rather challenging pool area that we designed in an urban development in Clapham in London, which was particularly challenging because it was in the basement, and we really honed in on light finishes, lighting, lots of different textures to give that soft, calming environment. To conclude, a retirement community designed with universal design principles in mind ensures that people can age in place comfortably. When residents feel that their home accommodates their needs without it feeling institutional, they are more likely to feel confident about making it their permanent choice. Additionally, features like well-lit pathways and tactile flooring help prevent falls and encourage mobility. By integrating all the design principles, you can create an interior environment that promotes well-being, independence, and community. Factors that will make an integrated retirement community not just a place to live, but a home of choice and a place to thrive in later life. People will be more likely to choose it for its beauty, comfort, convenience, and the vibrant lifestyle it offers, rather than a last resort.
Thank you so much, Jen. Well, we've now seen 3 complementary presentations, all brilliantly delivered. We're going to have a discussion now, and I'm going to welcome back Jen, Ali, and Susan. We're going to have a discussion, some Q&A, and hopefully we'll get some more insights that we can share with you all. I'm going to start by turning to Susan. Your approach incorporates the emotional and psychological uniqueness of moving in later life. What kind of impact is it having on clients? Are you making a difference? Are you changing the narrative?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. It's having a huge impact. It's what I'm seeing, the feedback I'm getting from clients is it makes them feel seen, heard, and understood. And actually, when they're in that stuck bit, some of them aren't even sure why. I had a client say to me, I don't know why I can't do it. And they're kind of even worried in their own selves as to why I'm not making what seems to be a logical move. When we can then approach that with a curiosity as to why that might be, and look at that cycle of maybe the grief cycle and the stuckness and all of that emotional reality that's happening when you're moving in later life actually allows people to see that, to accept that, and therefore to be able to work through that. And it's when you work through that that you can then move on to the logical parts of acceptance and what might the future look like. So actually the impact it's having is huge. It's helping people move out of that stuckness so they can then make a move into that future chapter.
And I was wondering about any concerns that people have about maintenance and fees, service fees, resale values. I mean, there's a few newspapers, which I won't mention now, that seem to make quite a lot about, the terrible stories of fees rising after a parent dies or they can't sell their homes. I mean, how do you address that concern?
Yeah, there's been quite a lot of negative press about some of the retirement communities, and some of it in reality is true. I've done the figures, I've worked it back, and there have been occasions where properties have lost significant value, up to 25% on average, actually. But those are historical situations, and so I think there's a huge thing about actually dealing with the reality of now, and I do that in two ways. We've got clients, if we're dealing with maybe family members, we've got clients who are currently in a property and they're worried about a future resale. So we can look at the statistics of what's happening in that area. Might it be a problem? And therefore, what solutions might there be for them to do something about it proactively? But actually, if we're talking about people looking at buying, especially integrated retirement communities now, that is a very different kettle of fish. And again, it's about raising the awareness of that, because I was speaking to a client a few weeks ago. They had dismissed any kind of retirement living because of that. And actually, when I talk to them about integrated retirement communities, ARCO, the transparency around fees and deferred management fees, etc., and why they exist, it became a lot clearer. So I think there's two things. Yes, there is a reality that there were problems, and there is historical evidence that says that's true. But actually, the work being done now with integrated retirement communities, and some are now even bringing in a future agreement of sale price, so you're going to be protected in the future in terms of resale value, and all of these things, actually the future looks a lot better. So that transparency of fees is really important. Talking to people about that is really important. Making it clear is really important. But the fear exists.
Yeah. Well, as you say, it's about honesty and trust, isn't it? And it sounds like you do some great work there, and very reassuring to hear. So I'm going to move to Ali now. Well, perhaps some of these things we know already, but given that there's only 1% of people who are contemplating moving into integrated retirement communities, why do you think it's so hard for them to achieve their marketing goals, their sales goals, and actually achieve good levels of occupancy?
Yeah, well, thank you for the great question, Debbie. So I would break that down really into 4 points I will mention about why it's hard for people to get more occupancy as the operators. Firstly, I'd say is what Susan has touched on about this emotional barriers, about the customers themselves feeling this is such a life-changing, daunting decision, and that in themselves is a huge objection. Secondly, would be very linked to that is just particularly in England, the awareness and education around the perception of retirement villages in England. We need to progress a lot. We are far off where some of the mature markets are in terms of their understanding about these incredible benefits to people's life quality that they offer. The third reason I would put forward is about the complexity of the decision-making process, that it's not just one person making a decision. There's many multiple stakeholders, attached family members, brother-in-laws, financial advisors, solicitors. It goes on, and it makes it a very complicated decision-making process. And then fourthly, I would talk about the actual lead generation and sales conversion part. There is often insufficient quality leads generated. We know you need on average 30 or 40 a month per site. Often people are far off that, and it's because of a lack of clarity of who is the target customer and targeting them on the right channels at the right time with the right message. And very much then linked to that down the funnel, we then hit all the sales conversion issues where customers are leaking and falling off because there is weak call inquiries handling, or the tours are not personalized or emotional. And also there's poor practices in follow-up process.
Wow, there's a lot of marketing challenges there, none of which are insurmountable. But when you list them so articulately, one after the other, I can see that really you've got to get so many different elements, and also, as you say, widen the funnel at the top in the first place. Wow. One technique that I'm not aware of with integrated retirement communities is a kind of try before you buy. Is that available? Do you think it's a good idea? Would that help people to make their decision, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent idea. And I've also got statistics to show that it really does prove to have great conversion from being able to take customers who are hot and convert them into residents. So yeah, unfortunately, everyone doesn't offer it. I'd say it's about 50-50. And yeah, it's very pertinent this time of the year, for instance, January, with health clubs and gyms. You'll know this is approach customers are very used to. You come in, try the gym for a week for free, and then you know, they know that will build up the customers' attraction to the offer, and it will be just a much easier sell. So we know that usually with retirement villages, the biggest obstacle is getting people in the first place. So here we are, we're offering something. You can be very clever about what you're offering as well. You could just offer a one-night stay, but it would be much more effective to offer it around something that's personalized to the customer. So if they're into, let's say, cricket, there might be an event you're holding that is around a famous cricketer giving a talk. So why not invite them then when the atmosphere is vibrant and electric, and they can feel like they're around a like-minded tribe, and then that will really hopefully convert them to have really felt and embraced the emotional amazingness of these places and convert them.
And they'll never want to go home again, we hope.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
So that's so interesting, and actually links to what I wanted to ask you, Jen, about privacy. A lot of people who have, you know, bigger houses that they're downsizing from, they're used to having, you know, a lot of privacy, or areas perhaps for home office space, or places where they can be quiet. You know, I loved a lot of the designs that you walked us through. How do you achieve, through good design, how do you achieve that feeling of privacy that can be so important to older people?
So I think it's really important to find the balance between sort of bigger, more open communal spaces and then quiet pockets, which, you know, might be hidden around a corner. Sort of, I think we like to create a lot of little vignettes around communal areas. So there's, you know, there might be a bay window with a breakout space with some chairs. So it's very light, looking over the garden. You know, you might have the private libraries where it's quiet. The residents or owners can go and read the paper, play bridge. So there's options, I think, to have varying sizes of groups. So, you know, 2 chairs maybe in one space, you know, different sort of different areas. I think it's also really important that we integrate the outside and the inside and make that flow, so that the owners have that opportunity to just go outside as if they would in their own home. You know, really nice sort of benches under a tree somewhere. We get very involved with coordinating the external landscaping as well to make sure that it does tie in. So I think that's important. I think making unique spaces, and yeah, so there's points of interest everywhere. That's really important.
Yeah, and that really shone through your presentation as well. The devil's in the detail, isn't it? Just really, you know, even though it appears very sort of informal, the thought that goes behind that is incredible. And on that note, perhaps sort of, you know, flipping the coin, if somebody wants to have their grandchildren or you know, big sort of extended family celebrations, do you design with that in mind, of inviting, you know, small people into an older people's retirement community?
So I think talking, you know, as Ali mentioned before, try before you buy. We try and design visitors suites, which then potential owners can come and stay there as well, or family. It's almost a bit like a hotel room, so we have integrated facilities, but there's zip and link beds in there so that grandchildren can stay if they like. We also create smaller, more intimate spaces. If there's a private dining room, for example, that could be multifunctional. So sometimes we put in pool tables that can change into a dining table. We have TVs, we might put some, PlayStations, that kind of thing. I think, outside space as well, having really, really sort of unique walkways, perhaps space for croquet, mini golf, that all helps integrate, facilitate intergenerational mix and facilitate grandchildren visiting. So, yeah.
Fantastic. That's so interesting. Grandchildren, and of course, great-grandchildren, with the increase in longevity that we see. Such an interesting discussion. We could go on all day, but we are slightly limited by time. So in conclusion, I'm just going to ask each of our experts what they would like to see going forwards in the later living sector. And if there's one thing, if they had a magic wand, what would they like to see that could change the narrative? Susan, should we start with you again?
Yeah, sure. Gosh, there's so many things, and there's so many good things happening in the later living sector as well. I really want to say that. The big overall thing for me is in 2024, end of 2024, the Older People's Housing Task Force report was published, and I would like all of those recommendations to be implemented. It's so good. The detail is so good. The information is excellent. So there's so much in there. But one of the big things that came out of that report for me, well, there were two, was we need much more information and transparency so people can make informed decisions, and that will help people to unstick themselves. We want people to be empowered to make informed decisions. As we've already said, you can't sell to people unless they're in that space, and that information allows them to get into that space. And then secondly, we actually have quite a shortage of integrated retirement communities and later living options for those in like middle income brackets. So that's going to be a big problem going forward that I think the industry could and will be addressing.
Well, we must take a look at that report. We'll try and make that available on the Silver Marketing Association website so all our members can take a look. Over to you, Ali. What one thing would you like to see?
Yeah, thank you. So for me, it would be to continue to change the narrative and raise the awareness around retirement villages. I think there's much we can all be doing there to help to augment that. So my suggestions would be a documentary, something like a Panorama or a BBC, where you could showcase the amazing real stories of these thriving communities, go around and look at many of them and visually see how incredible they are and hear from residents and staff. So yeah, that would be a documentary. I would like to give a shout out though to some great things that have happened in the last month or two on TV. We have had this Netflix series come out called Man on the Inside, which many hopefully people have watched. It's a very heartwarming comedy which shows a San Francisco integrated retirement community and touches on many of the myths and perception issues that we've covered. So I think that is a great series. It's quite a tearjerker as well. If you want a good cry, definitely had me in tears, and just touching on some of the things that are tricky as well, but also just wonderful joy moments around community and the lifestyle. And also we have coming out an actual movie with Pierce Brosnan and an incredible cast, which is called The Third Thursday Murder Club, which builds on the novel that Richard Osman done. So I think that's coming out this year. So really massive things for raising the great perception.
That's some great tips there. And any movie that's got Pierce Brosnan in it, it's got to be worth watching, hasn't it? Yeah, I'll be watching that. As long as he doesn't sing, of course. It's another story. Right. Finally, Jen, what would you like to see?
I think, on the back of what Ali was saying, raising an awareness, I think raising awareness with not just the target market, but the younger generation, so that we can integrate more with community. I think trying to get volunteers on board, so younger change makers who might be interested. I think youth keep the older generation young, and I think to be able to really foster that integration, get professionals giving back, coming and doing talks, and really sort of reaching out to community and businesses and making it more fun and interesting. I think keeping owners or residents more active by activities, designing, potential like small cookery schools, workshops for some of the gentlemen. I think it's more about action, isn't it? And really fostering those activities. And if we can design those into the communities, that would really, really help the longevity of the owners.
Fantastic. All about inclusivity. And that's a subject very close to our hearts in so many ways. Well, it has been a fascinating discussion. I'm really grateful to Susan, to Ali, and to Jen for their contributions today. And on behalf of the Silver Marketing Association, I hope that everybody watching has enjoyed this webinar. I hope that in our small way, we can all be doing our bit to change the narrative on marketing later life living. It's a very important subject and one that we will definitely return to in future. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.